Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. I'm going to do some more wiring on this tree today. As is traditional, we have the shot of it before we start. It's not going to look a lot different when I finish, but it will be different. The main thing is these two pads here have already been wired, so have these. But there were bits missing. Not all of it actually got wired. So I'm going to revisit those and see if there's anything else I want to do. And then the main reason today is to have a go at the apex. And this is just a matter of tightening. Yeah, just pulling the branches together. And with this part here, I want to pull the whole thing over so that it doesn't line up here, it lines up here and forms the curve that I want, like that. So we'll have a look at this. There's a bit of tidying to do there. That's where things have got knocked. Possibly a little bit more wiring and tidying here. I don't think I'll bother touching that or that. There's very little on this piece here. This is very weak. But it did push some new growths out, so, you know. And the concept of this tree being wind blasted on the side of a mountain and pushing everything over here would mean that this side would be weaker anyway, so I can sort of semi-justify that. But in that sort of storyline, this shouldn't be sticking up in the air, it should be tucked in nice and tight, because that would get possibly the worst of it there, sticking up. So I'm going to put the camera on the tripod. I've got all my different wire here. I'll pull the tree over closer to the workbench so that I can get at everything. And I've sort of arranged this in quite thick. That's my thickest wire actually. If that's 3, then that's 3.5. So 3.5 is my thickest wire. I've seen people using 6 and 6.5. I don't think, I'm not sure I could even bend it. But for the sort of things that I do, that's probably plenty thick enough. So that brings me down to 3, then that's 2.5, that's 2, and then up here we've got 1.5 and 1. Now 1 always sounds a little bit thin, but if all you want to do is just hold something in position that's very thin anyway, then, you know, 1 is thick enough. But that very rarely gets used. That doesn't hold much at all. It's just a bit too weak. Tend to use that more with my orchids. Okay, as I say, I'll get myself in position, get the camera on the tripod, and then I will speed, as is traditional with wiring, because it's a tedious, well, I find it a tedious process. I like the end result, and I like talking about it at the beginning. The actual doing I'm not so keen on. And I'll speed that up, so we'll do the old Benny Hill job and speed the whole thing up so that it's not too tedious for people watching. And then we'll review what I've done at the end at normal speed. So let's get started. Okay, sorry about the abrupt finish there, but the battery went dead on me, and because I had my back to the camera I didn't see it going, so I didn't have time to do anything about it. Anyway, I'm reasonably happy with what I've done. The major objective was to make sure these 3 pads have a gap between them, because without that gap they just would not look right, and achieve that. So the weather's coming in and pushing the tree over here, and then obviously again we need a gap in here and we need a gap in here, and I've got a feeling that if it's on a wire it can go down. I was going to say stick it up too much. I missed that one. So we've got a reasonable layer here. The growth has become a lot tighter this year, and where candles were pinched in the past, I've often got 2 growths where there was only 1. So they're going to thicken up even more, and we should get some double budding where candles have been taken off over the winter, and we should also get some back budding in places. But quite honestly, this tree is thickening up quite nicely now. Missed one. Get in there. Whereas you're encroaching on that gap. That's better. Yes, so I'm reasonably happy. We've got a nice pad there. Got another one here. I've maintained that curve down through there, and now it progresses over the top and comes round here. So that was hard work. I'm sure during the Benny Hill part there's lots going on that you can't really see. It's very difficult to film wiring when you're never quite sure which branch you're going to do next, if you see what I mean. And I was doing this, I'm not good at wiring, don't get me wrong, for goodness sake don't try and copy what I've just done. I end up with the branches in the places I want, but you mustn't look closely at the wire that actually achieves it. There's crossing wires, there's branches hooked up behind other branches rather than wire them, but the overall effect is what I want. This is what I want, dense pads, and I'm getting there. Compared with when I first started to recover this tree, it was very sparse and spindly. We're getting there. We're getting there now. And somewhere in the back there, yeah, through that little hole there, I took a branch off, and I'm going to make that into a gin, because I think that little bit of white showing through that gap might give it a little bit of character towards the top. And we've obviously got our shari and our couple of gins here, but they're not, you know, pine trees often have broken branches or dead bits die back and stuff like that, but you know, you're probably getting the feel of what I like about trees. I like them to look like a tree that could possibly exist in the wild, and I can imagine this tree, you know, fighting against the weather on a mountainside and surviving, and that's the impression I want to give with it. So I don't mind the shape in the trunk, you know, that's where perhaps when it was a young tree they had a mild winter and then the next winter was harsh again and pushed it back again, and branches pushed over. I don't mind all that sort of thing. I don't mind some shape in some trunks, but I like to be able to justify it. If this pine was growing in a pine forest, it would be dead straight and all the branches would be near the top. That's how they grow. Unfortunately, that shape doesn't make very good bonsai. Anyway, this is one of my older trees, and in my opinion, and bearing in mind bonsai is allegedly an art form, so beauty is in the eye of the beholder, I like this tree a lot. So let's get it back out in the fresh air where it belongs. Oh, I'll just somebody said, why do you always do your work in the room and not outside? I do it in the room because I'm talking. And I don't want to stand in my garden talking to myself. The neighbours think I'm nuts as it is. I don't want to actively encourage those thoughts by standing in a garden talking to a tree, because that's what it would look like. hence I work in here. I'm out of the wind. If it rains, I'm out of the rain. I've got all my tools handy. I like working in here when it's practical. And yeah, leave it at that. A lot of work on this one now. Some more wiring on this tree than I've ever done anywhere on any tree if you added all the trees up together, because a lot of my trees I don't wire because it marks the bark. When you've got an old gnarly pine like this, wire marks don't actually show up so bad. They can actually almost enhance the bark because it encourages it to be gnarly. So I'll leave it at that. Sorry it was so long, but I hate to think how long it actually took in the real time as opposed to the speeded up version. But yeah, we're okay. I'm okay with that. And see you next time. Bye for now.